Det er ikke lyd i...
Jeg har en Leo.
Det kom lyd. Hei. Vi skal bare gjøre noe litt annerledes. Vet du om de har sett? Hæ?
Snike inn nå.
Vi sniker inn litt...
Hva er det reklame? En liten teaser.
Nei! Feil skjerm. Det var slik reklame for kodepanelet. Jeg vet ikke om dere har sett...
Kodepanelet skulle vi ha.
Hva sa du?
Det skulle hete kodepanelet.
Panelet, ja. Det skulle helt...
Nei, ikke glipp av et godt.
Beklager.
Det er mulig den pønnen kommer igjen på neste sending.
Det er veldig greit sånn sett.
Det er, vi kjører stream fra Komplett, ikke hver fredag, ikke annet hver, ikke tredje hver, fredager.
Det har vært annet hittil, men...
Så på fredag så gjør vi en igjen. 20. desember. Litt etter lunsj.
Hva får du se?
Da får du se meg, Pavneet, Simen og Vidar, som snakker kode, kanskje kode litt live. Litt bent underholdningsprogram, pleier vi å kalle det.
Lett inspirert av hva vil jeg si, en blanding av radioresepsjon og Karl Johan. Med litt faglig. Litt faglig.
Ikke forvent å lære. Men kanskje dere lærer noe i dag?
Nei.
Eller nei.
Har
ikke forvent å lære.
Skal jeg si noe først, Ole?
Ja. Vi lurte litt på å lodde stemningen for en mulig meetup i juni. Så de som synes det var kult, kan ikke dere bare rekke henne i været?
Og de som er interessert å... Hold henne. De som tenker seg å snakke.
Ellers så tar jeg en siste tur på toalettet med de som ønsker det nå. Hvis noen må sånn last minute før vi starter da. Ingen? Nei, da er vi i gang.
Skal bare se teknikken funker.
Jeg tror du må plusse litt, hvis ikke ser ikke jeg.
Vær så god, Thomas.
Hei! Greit, velkommen til denne talken. Ja, vi skal gjøre det på engelsk.
Ja, vi gjør det på engelsk. For vi skal øve oss på engelsk.
Dette er bare litt sånn intro. Vi skal holde denne talken, eller noe lignende, på NDC i år. Så dette er liksom dry run, hvis det er lov å si. Så vi prøver det ut på dere, og så tar vi gjerne imot feedback etterpå, særlig skryt. Mest litt stor pris på skryt. Right, so welcome to this talk, and thank you all for coming. The talk is titled Making Komplett Big by Going Small and Making Every Mistake Count. It was originally Making Every Mistake in the book. What's happening?
We have a mouse problem.
This is fun.
Let's not use this.
Let's not use the mouse. Turn the mouse off.
Turn off! Autoscroll.
Yes. We do computers do it.
There you go.
Right. So, who are we? My name is Tomas Ekeli. I'm the lead software architect in the web group at Komplett.
Pavneet Singh Saund, hello, well, just Pav. My title is web developer, but I develop for the web, basically.
It doesn't make the
No,
web.
I do not develop the web. So that's short about us. So we're going to talk about how we are scaling our architecture, our process, and our organization to meet ever-changing business needs.
Okay, first a bit about Komplett. Since you're here, I guess most of you know who we are. We're a group of web shops in the Nordics. So we have 16 web shops. Maybe some of you didn't know that. We have shops in Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. We've also now got one in Germany, and we're probably opening one in Finland before the end of the year. Last year we had 7.3 billion Norwegian kroner in revenue, so we're almost $1 million company. Not quite. We had 1.8 million active customers and 20 million uniques. Put into that whatever you want. It's probably sessions, unique sessions in a year. When we started up in 1996, this was our architecture. We had an online catalog. Do you remember 1996? Some of you were possibly born. Yeah? It's a long time ago. So customers called in by telephone, landline I'm guessing, to the sales representative, and they placed the order in a system called Quick. This lived until 2000, the year 2000, the future, where we actually changed it a bit. Next slide. Thank you. Now we had a system behind the web shop. I was told that I'm not allowed to use their name. Currently one of you work there. But we had a web shop in front of that system. That was the system that will become Chrome. You probably don't know this, but our web monolith is called Chrome. It was called this in 2004, so way ahead of any stupid browsers that don't really own that name. It's our name, damn it. We own the name, should be owning the name, but at this time it was VB script running on IIS. I tried to figure out which version of IIS, probably version 1. The interesting thing here is that we had stock statuses, almost real-time stock statuses in 2000. And I believe we were at least first in Europe with that. So, yes. In 2004, we implemented a new ERP system, SAP. Probably heard of it. Yeah. And from then on, it's called Chrome proper. So we have Chrome connecting to database, sending messages over MSMQ to the ERP system. It started out still as VB script, converted it through a machine converter to VB running on ASP, and converted that again to C# running on ASP.NET. And this actually was the system until 2012. Imagine that. It is. Let's give them an example, should we? This is actual code, a bit hard to read, from our production sites in 2008. As you can see, this is show the method signature. So this is rendering price history for the shopping cart. And how does it do it? Well, it goes to the database, constructs an SQL command, setting a lot of, if you've ever been in SAP, you will recognize these kind of stuff. That's how SAP talks. It shouts at you, large letters. So we set stuff directly. We actually set an XML header, and we read the result out, putting it into that string, and in the bottom here, a bit further down. This is it. We take this XML result, we run it through an XSLT transformer, referencing a file name, and that actually produces the HTML. This is high tech. This is how we got to be the biggest e-commerce provider in Northern Europe. Aren't we cool?
Awesome tech.
This sucks. This really, really sucks. But this was the state of the art when we came. Yeah.
How did you guys feel in 2012? Was it?
We're getting
we'll
there.
get there.
We'll get there.
This was, and this wasn't one of the bad ones, I'm telling you. It was really, really, really bad. So, what did we do?
So we were at the state where 10 years of code, living, mutating over time, business requirements coming in, and basically becoming, we were a very responsive team. We were reactive to business needs, but we weren't very good at maintaining our code.
We were 5 or 6.
We were 5 developers at that time, yeah. So what we were feeling was a lot of pain. We were in a constant firefighting mode. So what happens is we have a feature request. We do something on a product page. We change the position of a button, and gift card breaks.
Because gift card breaks.
Yeah. And then, or we do something else, something about styling of something else. And again, gift card breaks.
Yeah. I mean, we changed the logo. Gift card breaks.
This is an ongoing theme. Push one place, it pops out another place.
Yeah. And it's always gift card and other stuff, but gift card always breaks.
So we were very frustrated. We wanted to do better. We needed to do better, and we did our first, well, not our first mistake, but the first mistake in this presentation.
First mistake we mentioned here.
Yeah. So we decided we need to rewrite this.
So what do we make?
Yeah. So along comes a business need based on things happening around in the.
This is 2012,
Yeah.
right?
So
Mobile phones are just coming.
and other stores are starting to get mobile sites. We then decide. Well, the business says we need a mobile site as well, and we don't want to touch other code. We don't want to touch the XSLT. We don't, because it's so fragile. We're scared of breaking things. So we said, hang on, we want to write new code, and here's a business requirement. Let's put these two things together. So there's the birth of our mistake, putting a technical requirement where the business requirement was meant to be. But it was well intentioned. We were focused on code quality. We were focused on creating solid code. We were test driven. We embraced domain driven design, well, as much as we could. We created a CQRS based event sourcing library, which is open source.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun, and we
Lots of great code.
a lot of
really
good
good
and we
code.
gelled as a team.
Yeah.
It was really, really good.
We were really delivering. We
So-
just had to come to feature parity.
Well, before that, the result of this first iteration was this URL, Komplett.no.
With HTTP.
HTTP, yeah.
Yes.
So this is something we did from zero to out the door within 6 months. It was awesome. We did all this cool stuff. It was really cool, a lot of fun, and the business saw value because we produced a website, a mobile website. But then during this time, we needed to do other stuff. We needed to do other, business was waiting for us to actually deliver new features on the existing desktop site, and this never happened. So what we thought is, we've already created a mobile store. Let's create the desktop store on the new platform.
It'll be easy.
It'll be easy.
Just 12 years of development. We can remake that because now we're using CQRS and Solid. Should be easy, right? Right?
Yeah.
No, it's not.
So this led us to
Yeah.
K2 is a very deadly mountain for those of you who don't know.
So the name K2 is both Komplett 2 and K2. K2 is an extremely deadly mountain in the Himalayas. It's regarded as worse than Mount Everest. It's not as tall, but more people die there. So if you go climbing K2, you're gonna die. Sorry. So our project didn't survive. We'd spent 2 years at this point trying to slowly reach feature parity with the old platform. Not that the old platform was really moving anywhere, but we never kind of got to the level that the business needed for us to be able to say, now we can turn off, or at least begin to shunt all of our customers over to the new platform. And the mobile customers let us down by not going 80% mobile once.
Which
Why
is
did they
ridiculous.
do that? No, then it would be sold, but they didn't. So after 2 years of little to no actual business value delivered, we were killed as a project. And this was a very, very dark time in Komplett Web Team's history. We were 6 developers, I think, at that time. We lost a few of them. At the end, we were 3 left. And we had no kind of technical cred. We had just failed a major project, lots of code lost. We didn't even really have much self-respect. It was really, really bad. I think you seem to be.
That's right. That's all. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, so let me finish the narrative now, since you don't want to. Right, so we just gone really low. What the web team started to do was we went back to working on the original Chrome. We fixed bugs, we added small features there. We started to try to build up some kind of trust with the organization again. While this was going on, Komplett did a huge 1-year project to try to figure out which platform could we move to. We sent out RFPs, we evaluated the big players out there, 3-letter acronyms and stuff. We had a long process that finally we had 2 or 3 finalists left, of which we were to choose one as the future platform for Komplett's e-commerce. And last week, the web team were asked to just, on a whim, place our own offer as this answer to the request for proposals, just to have something to kind of measure the others against, right? This is rock bottom, and they should be up here somewhere. To our surprise, at least my surprise, we won. Yeah, they decided that we were the best ones, so we have it on good authority that we are the best in the world, I guess, apparently. Now you can switch.
Now. Yeah. So that's it, right? They showed the business showed trust in us. They said, okay, we're looking to you. We've seen that you delivered some business value. You're getting some speed going on, and based on what things we had told them and how we had presented platform, they said, go for it. Now we are unanimous. We've considered other options. This is what we're going for. Make it work, right? So we have the trust of the business.
Scary.
Very scary. But the thing is, nothing had really changed that much because this business still needed a lot of new features to be made. They still needed a mobile platform because there was no mobile platform. We still needed to do the same things we set out to do with the K2 project.
And when the business said to us that they trust us, we are going to put some money towards this platform, they also said, but we expect to be able to do new stuff with it, because they haven't been able to get any features for now 3 years. So it was a platform that they loved, but it wasn't moving, and they had lots of plans. Or it's strange to say we have lots of plans for what we can do on the web, right? And we need to support that. We cannot keep optimizing being an electronics web shop, which is what we are mainly in Norway, or were at this point. We want to be able to do new stuff. You might have noticed that we now have a bank, travel agency, insurance. More things are coming that I can't talk about yet, but I will be able to announce.
So what we have to do then is build trust in ourselves. We have to reach into our core and figure out what we needed to do to actually deliver. So we spend time building a culture and identifying our values, and this is from the bottom. We started. We took inspiration from other people doing other things. We put up our own values up, and we basically defined 10 values, which we ended up with.
So values that both we felt we had, and values we felt we needed to have. So some of these are aspirational, and some are more, this is just us.
Yeah, it's confirmation of what we want to do. I mean, we have our called company values, and these are supportive under those. But this was for us, right? At the same time, because we had gotten the go-ahead of this is what we want to do, the money had started to roll, which means we started to bring on a few more people. So a few more. But, and this also meant that we needed to have this in place. We need to have at least a start of this in place. And I'll just quickly iterate the values we have. So we have considerate over egocentric, experiment-friendly culture, communication over co-location, built together, owned together, don't complain, fix it, trust over control, anchoring decisions, managing expectations, open and honest, fail fast, fix fast. These are what we want to communicate internally. And then the second big mistake. As with any project, and where we just start throwing money at it, the first thing is let's add more developers. And it's not let's add one more developer or two more developers. It's let's throw developers at this. It'll be good, right? It'll be good.
So it was very important to talk about culture before we started that, because otherwise that culture, whatever we had, would be diluted totally.
But there's a reason, or there was a hope by doing this. The thing is, we could probably not solve the task of breaking up our monolith with the same mindset and the same approach we used to create it to begin with. So this is forcing the matter the way we decided to do it, at least. So we added consultants because that's who was available. We started adding multiple locations. So we were centralized in Sandefjord, but
Global HQ
in Sandefjord, but now had a sister office for basically consultants in Oslo, and a couple of developers in Poland, Potsdam.
And we also added a couple of QA people in Minsk. So now we were in 4 countries, 3
for offices, for locations. Yeah. And we started the main project, which is then the rewrite of the to the responsive web.
Yeah. So we told business that we couldn't serve mobile-friendly sites from pages from Chrome. That was impossible 2 years earlier. But 2 years earlier, it really kind of was impossible. But at this point, it was possible. Now we had media queries that had stabilized and was available across the browsers. Now we had some more knowledge about CSS. We had some technologies we didn't have a few years earlier. So we started a project to make our site responsive.
Or adaptive.
Adaptive. We like to call it adaptive, but everybody else calls it responsive. So.
So we continued with this with the up-ramp. We got multiple offices, multiple teams, and at around this time, Spotify came with their agile model, which is how they aspire to deliver software.
Has everybody heard about the Spotify model?
Some say yes, some say no.
That's
It's a really cool thing.
Very, very cool.
It served as inspiration, and they said themselves, this is inspiration for them as well. This is not something they do.
So in Spotify you have kind of squads with a product owner, and they are responsible for some feature from end to end. And you have also the developers divided into chapters. So this might be the kind of the front end chapter, and this might be the DBA chapter. What do I know? And in addition to that, you have guilds. Well, they're kind of interest groups. If you're interested in security, you're part of the security guild.
They also go across tribes, which is the
Yeah.
main thing here. So we had slightly different needs, right? So we were 15 developers at the time. No, sorry, 15 developers at the time. Similar structure, but we had one major change. We were the Spotify approach is very focused around co-located squads, the people who actually work together in the same place. And we were spreading ourselves quite thin, yes, which led us to our learning, which is the Komplett model. Not as fancy drawing, but
I made this drawing.
this represents more where we are today. What we have here is 7 squads, named by color. We have
It's not gray, it's silver.
So we have supporting user experience personnel, QA, who is part of the team, and we have a couple of helper roles around us, which is web ops, and a responsible to kind of for delivering for coordinating our deliveries basically. And we then have we saw the need for a new type of squad. But all these squads are feature squads. These are working within the business domains, talking directly or indirectly at this point.
And in each of these squads, there are people from almost every location we're at. So I don't think we have any squad which is in just one location.
We have one squad, which is only based in Boden.
No, not anymore.
Not anymore, okay. Stole my point. So it's a challenge, the way that is set up. And to get things to help us along, we had an infrastructure squad, which is the orange ball over here.
Orange squad.
Orange squad.
So the small dots, each dot is a person. These two are UX specialists working in this area. So they kind of help business and us come to an agreement and prototype one area. So they have a wide knowledge about what's happening in this entire area, and we have a guy who's kind of responsible for the deliveries of those squads.
We're talking very project
Yeah.
top down.
Yeah,
type of approach here.
it's the guy who has to go to the meetings, so the rest of us don't have to. And we have some ops, also kind of free floaters around there, and at 1 dBA, but only 40%. Yeah, so we're now grown from we're still back at 15, not 50, as you just saw. And we are working on our main app, Chrome. And we have tripled in size, and we are really churning out features. Now we start to feel the pain, because when you have 15 people stepping around in the same code base, probably working in the same files, because it's really poorly structured, and you have lots of small files and then one file that you always have to change, like not just the project file, but also actual classes that are like that. So you end up with a lot of merge conflicts, really hard to get features out. We're still in the place where the feature that one group makes or one guy makes clobbers a different feature, usually a gift card. And every time we make a release of Chrome, which is really, really large, first off, it took us like 4 hours to deploy it to production. So a failed deploy, we had one more try that day, and then the day is gone. And second, when we got to deploy it to our test system, it took the QA department, because we have a QA department, almost a week to verify that it actually worked, because it was so big, so much to check, and everything could fail, and usually did. So that meant that it took, if we had a candidate for production, it took a week, up to a week, to usually discover that no, we can't take that to production because suddenly gift card doesn't work or something, and then we take it back. But now we have 15 developers who've been working for a week, right? So we have a week's worth, or rather 15 weeks worth of work on that monolith. What do we do with that? Do we go back and make a fix, or do we try to roll forward? If we roll forward, then it's 15 weeks of work that QA has to double check that actually worked, and that means they have to check everything again. So it's up to a week until they can say whether it worked or not. So this is a painful place to be. That kind of told us that we were doing something wrong. It's not supposed to be like this. We weren't on a quarterly or half-yearly schedule for release, but it turned out it's not every month that we actually managed to get something out. Yeah.
Did you use like feature branches?
We were
release
feature
branches?
branching like crazy. It's a poor idea, don't do it. It's a terrible idea.
Okay. And not a release branch either? You used a release
We
branch?
used to have release branches, which turns out to be just as bad an idea as feature branching. Because then the release branch is, by definition, almost the same as a feature branch. It's just even more brittle. So if you have a feature...
But if you had if something failed in the release, then you could fix it in the release branch and push on instead of...
That's what we usually did, but then another thing would be we would discover that another thing that didn't work. So we had release branches that lived for weeks. So we were at release, I don't know, 200.18. This is our 18th attempt at this release, and still it was failing. We weren't getting it to production. And now, if it's 18 attempts, it might be somewhere between 18 days and 18 weeks of work on the master branch. Can you imagine trying to merge that back in? It's horrible. Feature branches doesn't help.
On the master branch?
Yeah. The master branch, our next attempt at the release.
Okay, so that's sort of the develop branch.
Yeah. When we merge something to master, that is our candidate for the next release. So what we did is we sat down and looked at what we were doing, and we decided that for us at this time, it is better than one large monolith. We want to move towards having a landscape of services. So smaller deployment units that we can actually deploy with relatively little risk at a much higher cadence. And we want those services to be consistently deployed. So it should be easy to deploy them. It shouldn't take 4 hours and be lots of manual copying of files. And we should do this while keeping the monolith running. So that's where Thomas's point about feature flags, or as we call them, feature switches, super important. So our path going forward is to have the monolith running, take some small part of that monolith, find a new bounded context that is interesting, that does something that is valuable, and we usually do this because we need to do something in that context, and we put a feature flag around it. We make a new service out of it, deploy that all the way to production, and then we turn on or off using that new service. So when it's in test, we can test that the old stuff works, because we might have a bug in our feature flag. That's really rare, but it happens. Or we can turn it on to the new stuff and check if it works. We can also kind of A/B test it, but that's a different story. So that's the important thing. But when you split things into services, that service becomes very important to the entire landscape. So you have other services that start to depend on it. And then it became very important for us to be clear on this, that once your service is in production and something is using it, you're not allowed to break your interface. You are not allowed to change your data type. You're not allowed to change the methods. The external interface of that service is the service. If you need to do breaking changes, and sometimes you do, that is a new service. And you don't take away the old one. And that's the only way we've found that can make this work. It's hard. We're still failing on this almost every week. But that's the way we have decided to go forward.
You copy the old service and change?
Usually we do. We start based on the old service. If the service isn't small enough that it's easier to just rewrite it. And if it's that small, I'm happy. But usually we're not that small. Oh, this is mine as well. Okay, so how do we actually do that? Now we have an architectural vision, which is we want to have services. We want to split into services without breaking the old monolith apart. We can only delete code from the old monolith once we are sure that the new service works. But how do we do that? Well, we need to create a lot of services. And that's, or used to be for us, very hard. We had to set up a Git repo, we had to set up the build jobs, we had to set up deployment pipelines, which used to be batch files, but now they're not, happily. We had to set up all of the infrastructure around the service, deploying databases, all of this stuff. This was painful, and it led our developers to want to fix it in the old code, because then they didn't have to do all that. So we decided to make what we call a service maker. That's the next slide. Ah, this is the service maker. So we have a service maker. It's actually a web page internal to our network. Developer who wants to go to the service maker wants to create a service, goes to the service maker, types in the name of the service. I think he or she also has to type in a short description and whether or not this service uses databases. Not which database, because you're not allowed to use other services' databases, but you say, I need a database. and they decide whether they want this service to be an active service or actually be a nugget package that other things can use. So kind of bad name there, but this is what it does. So it creates the source code repo on Bitbucket in our case. It creates the build definitions on Jenkins in our case, which can push to package services. It creates the deployment jobs on Octopus in our case, and it actually connects to and creates databases in development, test, and production. We have 3 environments. Once it's done that, it commits an empty service to the Git repo on the master branch. That fires off the build machine, which builds a package with an empty service. This fires off the deployment, and the service is deployed to all environments. This means that once the developer has pushed the button, waits for, I think it's 30, 40 seconds, the service is now live, all the way. It takes away all of the pain of making a new service, and the developer can focus on solving whatever business need they need to solve. This has helped us immensely.
So, moving over to how we actually get work done. So we've had a look at how we've technically solved this in regards to creating new services. But how do we actually work? We are, at this point, we have 50 developers trying to get things done, delivering features. We are organized based on what we think to be business boundary context. We've had to try to identify them with the business, and just figure out where the boundaries are and who our responsibles are. It's taken time for this dialogue to actually work, and these boundaries are being moved constantly. So work basically starts off usually as projects, which trickle down through UX business requirements get formed, our delivery managers are involved, and we're also involved pretty early in regards to figuring things out, breaking things up, splitting the stories out. And that leads to our daily work. And each squad is responsible for how they actually choose their work, how they actually do their work. We are at our level, we are pretty agile. We do whatever we need to get done, to get things done. Each squad decides themselves how they want to work. If they want to be Scrum, go for it. If they want to go pure Kanban, go for it. We go Scrum, but enjoy. Scrum ban, whatever. I mean, it's up to the squads to kind of figure out how they want to work, well, how the process works. And some are very, very kind of, let's do the estimate, let's do everything, and that's definition of done in development. Whereas other squads are very, let's bring QA on board, let's own this thing, let's put this thing out all the way to production. So this is based on, I mean, the squads are kind of just given the mandate to figure things out. So learn, evolve, let's see what starts working. And then we learn a bit from each other. That's kind of the idea. Sorry. So the idea is to keep up frequent deliveries. We want to be able to push to production actually as soon as possible. So we have continuous deployments going on to dev, and they're promoted to test depending on how the QA works with that squad. And it's usually just a quick test and out to production. So we've gone from weeks to be able to deploy minutes if you want to. But the regular cadence is maybe a couple of days, maximum a week between each deployment. To coordinate all this is a mess. I mean, well, not a mess, but it's a challenge. It was a mess. We've gone through
it's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity. There we go. We've gone through all kinds of communication clients. We've tried TeamViewer, we've tried Skype, we've tried
Hangouts.
And we've kind of we've kind of fallen on the Skypes. Skype, personal Skype, and Skype for business. That's kind of been the things that have worked for us. We then use TeamViewer to do pair programming, which actually works. So we pair programmed over internet, and we even have done attempts at mob programming through TeamViewer, which is cool. But obviously, it's not the same thing as being physically in the same room together. But this is kind of how we've split things up. In regard to other communications, we try to keep the squads as autonomous as possible. I mean, we try to let them decide as much as possible, but I mean within their sphere, so there are no dependencies between squads. It's not always possible, but we're getting there bit by bit. And to actually communicate, we use Flowdoc, which is an alternative to Slack, I guess. Where we have our squads have our separate rooms. We have our squad rooms, we have our business rooms, we have our
Incident
rooms, and we have water coolers, which are full of animated gifts. So gift parties are very good on Fridays. And this kind of builds up our ecosystem of how we communicate with each other. So we are at 5 locations now. Right, so Sandefjord, Oslo, actually 2 in Oslo. So we're actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 locations. So Sandefjord, Oslo, 2 in Oslo, 2 in Potsdam, and 1 in Minsk. That's our current spread. So the total
consequence of this is that if anybody wants to or needs to work at home for a day, that is no big deal for us because you are remote for your co-workers anyway. So if you work at home or in your nearest office, we don't really care, but if you have physical meetings, it's nice if you're there. We really, really try to take all of our meetings and make them virtual to allow non-local people to join. Okay, so there's another aspect of going for smaller services, which is how do you actually keep this running in production, right? As Thomas mentioned, when you need to scale a monolith, you really need to kind of deploy your biggest thing to a lot of servers, which can be really, really hard. Our Chrome, our dear Chrome, has functionality for CRM. You can our people who work here can log onto it and do CRM stuff in Chrome. We would never ever need that on high double digits numbers of servers, but to scale Chrome we need to actually do that. There's no reason for it except that it is in what we need to scale for other reasons. So this has given us the opportunity to scale things up and even more importantly down. It's not always for the reasons you imagine. Like we have stuff that needs to be PCI compliant for credit cards and stuff like that. And we want to restrict that to as few servers as possible because that's a real pain to be PCI compliant. So to be able to pull that out of the thing we need to scale to maybe 100 servers and scale that to just 2 or 3, great, huge boon. We are saving millions on that. You wouldn't believe it. So scaling up and scaling down. But when we do need to scale, like on Black Friday, we need to scale big time. So in practice, we do a lot of caching. So we cache services quite heavily. It's very dependent upon each case, how we cache and the length of time we cache for. But every time or very regularly, we do performance tests of our solution. So we are having an hourly save right now, actually. You shouldn't be here, you should be shopping on Komplett. And to be able to do that, and I hope we're up, we've done a lot of performance tests these last weeks. And that tells us which services need to scale and at which levels. In addition to that, every service we make has to conform to kind of a pattern. So it has to have a health checking endpoint, so that our monitoring systems can connect to it and ask it, are you okay? It has to have a more lightweight pinging endpoint, where our load balancer can connect to it and kind of just see, are you even up? And each service we have has to do logging in a particular way and send it to a particular logging service. We have one for each environment over UDP on port 666, number of the log. That it has to do that. And every time we get a request, we generate the request ID and we send that through the entire system, so it can be logged at every level and we can track down what happened. These are things that are much harder in a distributed system, but you can do them. You can do them, and you get a lot of good consequences as well.
A side note, which we haven't mentioned here, is in regard to the technology stack, right? So we've defined the outer borders of what a service needs to do, but how the service looks like internally is actually up to the team who wants to do it. So there's nothing wrong with a team saying we want to do this in Node, or we want to do this in
Ruby,
Haskell, I don't know. Yeah. So they can, but the happy path is obviously optimized for what we know and what we're already doing, which is C#.
If they just want to make a service and just want to use the service maker, they get a web API C# service. So most of them do that, of course. They don't want to care about that, and C# is adequate for their needs.
And also related to that, I mean, now that we're kind of ramping up with even more developers, we're not as technology focused. We're open to getting people who have completely different backgrounds. I mean, good developers are good developers no matter what language you write in, right? So then they are allowed to do what they're good at.
As long as they do these things.
So we've kind of talked about our humble beginnings, how we've started and where our needs come from. We have a long history of, it's really important to know where we're coming from. We're touching on that the shaman theme, which you mentioned, Thomas. We're bringing aboard new people the whole time, and it's really good to, it's important to see what we have done, what's failed, what has not worked, and what is working. I mean, what we can say at any given time is what is working, right now. So we talked about how we made mistakes. We're making mistakes, and we own them. We embrace mistakes and we learn. Otherwise, that's failure.
We call them the fabulous failures because we learn something from them.
And in regards to the business needs, the business at the very top, our organization is extremely agile. They want to go into new markets, they want to do different things, and we need to be able to meet them. And through many years, there's the layers of hierarchy, of organization, if you want to say, which we need to work through. And this is something we're slowly and gradually doing. It's not something you can do overnight. So this is how we're moving forward, and we tend to keep on failing and learning as we go, and hopefully also sharing as much as possible.
So where do we go from here? What aren't we good enough at yet? Well, our squads are a small part in a long pipeline from a need being discovered to actually production. So we want to work on that to make that part more owned by the squad. We don't think we can do very much about the actual development time, but maybe we can shorten the lead time until the development team starts working on something. Maybe we can shorten the time from a fix is delivered by a developer until it's actually in production. Stuff like that. We think we need more microservices, or at least smaller services. It's become a bit of a strange strange term, microservices, but we think we need small services, small self-contained services. And we haven't done this a lot, but we want to expose our services as public APIs, not all of them. You're never going to get our customer data. Or perhaps.
Maybe gift cards.
Maybe gift cards. You don't want gift cards. They're horrible. But we want to open up our API to allow other developers to connect to our services. We don't think we are ever going to, well, never say never, but I don't think we're ever going to make an Android Watch app. I highly doubt it. Yes?
How much is left of the original Chrome?
Quite a bit, actually. I think it was a few weeks ago we finally stopped rendering XSLT to the actual customer. So quite a bit is left, but the most important parts have been slowly phased out. Yeah, we want to expand into more business areas, do completely different things. We are an e-commerce store, so we are focused on concepts like products and stocks and customers and stuff like that. But we want to be able to change our entire outlook. So we it's like we are trying to build up something that makes it possible for us to jump when a strategic need appears. Yeah, and we are working on scaling the front-end architecture. So we are working on changing entirely how we actually render a page. Because now we are rendering very dynamic stuff that doesn't scale to millions of users, and we want millions of users.
So just some learnings we've had in regards to what has enabled us to do this. We touched on it in the beginning, and trust is essential. We need trust to be able to do anything, and
both ways.
This goes both ways. Yeah, we have to be able to trust what's coming to us, and they also. I mean, the business expect things from us. Need to be able to trust that we are going to take. We have their best interests at heart. But an organizational change from the bottom up is never easy. They say it's impossible, but we see things happening slightly differently. You need a white knight in the organization. You need someone who's going to fight your battles, who's going to be the man that connects. Or woman, sorry, the person who connects and protects. You need good developers. I mean, that's a given. But you don't have to have rockstar developers. Rockstar developers are usually horrible at social skills.
But a really bad developer can really set you back. So if you get one, get rid of them. However you can. They kill it.
We need an architectural vision. It may be wrong, but you need a vision. You need something you're going for. So you're not, going in all kinds of different directions. And you need luck. I mean, luck is a major part of anything. You try to reason and say that, we did this and this and this, so obviously that's why it worked. But there's always luck. So thank you. That's us. You can reach us on Twitter, Komplett Dev. Panelet, which we already talked about. Pass on Twitter myself and Tomas Ekeli, and I blog at codingwithempathy.com. So, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you guys. I'll stop the stream.
We've gone way over. Any?
Probably have, yes.
Services do you have?